Morning, everyone. Good to see you here. I'd like to say a few thank yous. First to our customers, clients in the room, Kevin, Rishi. We have Michael somewhere. Michael, Will. Yeah, of course I remember Will. And thank you so much for being here. To our advisors, we have David Williams, not David Williams, David Williams, Mick, Julian, Matt, Jonathan, Meera. Thank you for helping us shape our thinking. To the speakers and panelists in the room, thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and insights. And to Andrew, our chair, and our CRO, who's along with the marketing team, put all of this together. Thank you so much. So while we're here, in the past few weeks, we've been talking to customers and our partners, and what we've heard is that AI is everywhere, but no one really has the right sort of the model or the roadmap to implement. So we're here to help you do that. Quick intro to Net Solutions. I started Net Solutions with my wife about 25 years ago. And we focus on digital product engineering. We work with smaller companies, but also mid-sized to large enterprises. And what we do is help them build some of the products and platforms that help them digitally transform or build SaaS products for them. And we become their digital partners, long-term digital partners. We also pioneering something called growth engineering, what you see behind, because AI is changing so many things for everyone. We think that there needs to be a new model to really build software built on two pillars. One is that nothing is ever built, nothing is never finished. So how do you really build platforms that continually evolve and change? And the second thing is that how do you keep building or evolving as like a pit stop crew, as we say in the racing terms? How do you keep evolving and changing things on the fly? At the heart of growth engineering is a simple, repeatable cycle called discover, engineer, optimize, and scale. And what we're going to talk about today is also going to be aligned to that, around AI discoverability, to social proof, to data and trust in an agentic commerce world, and also talk about people and processes. With that, can I hand you over to Andrew, who's going to run the show today? Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. So we've got a really exciting agenda today. I'm just going to quickly talk you through it. So first up, we're going to have the pleasure of Sartaj from Profound, who has flown in specially from New York for this to tell us all about visibility and AI discoverability and what's coming in agentic commerce. Then at 9 o'clock, we have Alfred at the back here, who was the ex-head of innovation at Google. And he's going to flip things more to how do you create people, process, and culture to be successful in innovation. But obviously today we're focusing a lot on AI as a good example of that. So what are the lessons learned? What are organizations doing well? What can we learn from failures as well? Because it's not just about the technology, it's about how we implement it, how we organize our businesses around that. Then we're going to have a panel with Sartaj, Alfred, and two other eminent speakers. We've got Andrew Zenny here, CEO and founder of Fabicus. I'll let him properly introduce Fabicus and what they do on the panel. And then we have Adrian Blair, CEO of Trustpilot, coming to talk about the role of social proof in commerce and AI. So we've got plenty of opportunities to ask questions at the end of the panel. So I'll make sure that we do that, because I'm sure there'll be questions. And then if there's anything else you need, obviously during today, just ask one of us or ask the crew at Batch. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sartaj. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name is Sartaj. I lead research at Profound. At Profound, we help companies market to machines and optimize their visibility in this new era of AI search. All good. And today, I am going to be talking about the machine customer era. So let me just walk you through the agenda really quickly. First, we're going to talk about how search is actually changing. We're moving from blue link search to AI answers. And then we're going to talk about how these answer engines actually influence people's decisions with some examples. We're going to talk about the modern consumer journey. And then we're going to take a step back and talk about what this entire sort of timeline of agentic commerces look like. And then I'm going to give you some helpful strategies for what you can actually do as a brand to optimize your visibility in this new era. So just to set the stage, I think we all know this by now, but chat is the search interface of the future. If you look at these adoption curves here, we see that in just 2 months, ChatGPT hit 100 million weekly active users. It took Google 6 years to do the same thing. If you sort of show this growth exponentially over the course of the next couple of years, we see that ChatGPT could surpass Google by October 2030. It's clear that traditional search is losing market share. And so what we actually looked into was, okay, what does this mean for the consumer journey? So we ran a survey of about 2,300 people. And this is before agentic shopping became sort of large scale. So these numbers are definitely much higher now. But we asked those 2,300 people, okay, in the last 7 days, have you used an AI product for shopping or product research? And 58% of those people said yes. And then when we zoomed in and looked at the buyers, we saw that 80% of those buyers self-reported that they used AI for at least 50% of their decision making. And that number continued to grow. The more these people used AI, the more likely they were to convert. We saw that when people said that they used an AI model for at least 80% of their decision making, they converted at an 86% clip. I think the writing is on the wall here. Every brand is at risk of losing control of their most important touch point with their customers, which is their website. In the past, you would go to Amazon or some brand's website to look up shoes. Now, I know I actually just did this yesterday. I'm looking for some new running shoes. I said, what brand of running shoes should I get? What are the best? What are the pros and cons? AI is becoming the disintermediary between the brand and the customer. So to sort of illustrate this further, I want to run an experiment with you all. It's a bit of a thought experiment. We're going to analyze a common consumer journey and see what happens. So just to set the stage here, we know that every AI model has different sources that it pulls from, different structures. We see that there are a lot of common sources, but as you go farther down, there are a bunch of different websites that get pulled in. So for the sake of this experiment, I'm going to look at 3 different models. We have Google AI mode on the left, ChatGPT in the middle, and Gemini on the right. And we're going to ask a question. The question is going to be, what are some good running shoe brands? I'm on a tight budget. And lucky for us, ta-da, the answer is populated. We see that AI mode is recommending Asics, Adidas, New Balance. And we see that ChatGPT is recommending Asics again and then Run. We see that Gemini is recommending Nike. These are all different answers. Say I'm Puma, and I want to know how I can optimize for this new era. I'm going to find out a high authority site where all of these models are pulling from, and I'm going to go to that high authority site and update it. I'm going to put Puma at number 1 and say why it's the best option for running shoes on a tight budget. Let's say, for the sake of this experiment, this site gets re-indexed in 3 minutes. In reality, it's closer to a couple hours to 24 hours, but 3 minutes. Okay, we'll check back in 3 minutes. While that happens, I want to talk about how an AI model actually populates a recommendation. It's not using some frozen database from 2023. It's pulling from the web live. So we're going to look at a different example here to understand how AI populates a recommendation. What's the best smartwatch for sports training? In the next 3 seconds, this is what happens. First, query regularization and fan out. So when you put a question into ChatGPT, it actually explodes your search into multiple different searches. So in the case of what's the best smartwatch for sports training, we see best smartwatch sports training 2026. Top rated smartwatches recovery tracking. The AI model is actually exploding your search into a couple different searches. Step 2, it searches the web with those fan outs. So it'll go, and for each fan out, it'll go and pull in a bunch of links that are relevant. And in the course of like 300 milliseconds, it'll have 20 to 50 links to choose from. So then you might be thinking, okay, it has 20 to 50 links to choose from, but when I ask a question to an AI model, why does it only give me 5 to 8 citations? So step 3 is the trust decision, how the model actually chooses which sites to pull in. Here are some things that'll instantly disqualify you. If you have JavaScript all over your site and blocking your content, and your content exists within JS blocks, you're invisible. Content farms within content that aren't actually helpful to the user are actually going to be detrimental to you. So you don't want to just be pumping out AI slop. Sites that fail to load quickly are going to get skipped for sites that actually do load quickly. And cryptic URLs that say nothing about the answer are not going to help you. So what does actually help you is semantic URLs. If your URL is basically your marketing to the model. So in this case, best smartwatches 2026 is a great URL. We actually ran a study on this. We saw that these semantic URLs, natural language URLs, got 11.4% more citations than poorly formatted URLs. Meta descriptions that spoil the answer market your page to AI as well. Forums with genuine discussion. Reddit is still the #1 most cited source overall for a reason. People want to know actually. Like the model wants to know what people actually think about your product. Recent published dates, pages with specific data, hard data, numbers, comparisons, all these things help you show up in these 8 links. Okay, so in the case of the smartwatch, this is what ChatGPT actually decided to read in this thought experiment. A Reddit thread, Garmin versus Apple versus Strava, Wired, Tech Review, DC Rainmaker, Verge. The scary thing is everything that I just walked you through is happening in just 3 seconds. In just 3 seconds, the model is going to fan out your query, search the web, pull in a bunch of sources, decide which sources to trust, and provide an answer that is effectively instantaneous commercial verdict. In just 3 seconds, you're either invisible or you're the answer. Crucially, this pattern can be engineered, as we've talked about, with good quality URLs, answer-first content, meta descriptions, getting on Reddit, YouTube, other forums, having fresh content. We actually tested this too. You don't need a ton of content. Your content just needs to be optimized properly. So we tested this with a company with a $2 million content library. They were never mentioned by ChatGPT. And all they did was publish one semantic URL, added a meta description to their answer, and got themselves in a Reddit discussion. And they became the top recommendation in just 72 hours. We're going to talk about another example later that is sort of similar to this. How is that possible? It's because ChatGPT is actually pulling from a different index than Google. We see that the ChatGPT query fanouts only overlap about 39% with the Google search results for any given query. And for the actual question itself that you put into ChatGPT, the overlap is closer to 19%. So the model actually has its own internal indexing structure. It has its own way of populating a recommendation, and therefore you can optimize for it quite differently. We actually tested this ourselves at Profound. We published a comparison article on a tech blog on Monday morning at 9 a.m. And then by Wednesday, we saw an increase in demo requests because of that article that got indexed on Monday and became the top source on Tuesday. Okay, our time's up from that. That may have been a little bit longer than 3 minutes, but our time's up. Look at that. What are some good running shoe brands? I'm on a tight budget. I put those questions back into those models that we were talking about a couple minutes ago. You see here in AI mode, the Puma Velocity Nitro 4 is #1. In ChatGPT, it's the same. And in Gemini, it's the same. That's unlikely to happen in reality, but in the case of this thought experiment, we can see that if you optimize your pages in a correct way and you get yourselves in the places where these answers are forming in those cited pages, you can increase your visibility. Okay, so that's how AI is populating the recommendation, but what actually happens after that when a person asks for these recommendations? So let's talk about Sarah. Sarah is a fake person. She doesn't know that she's going to spend $220, but this is what happens. My name is Sarah. I'm a recreational runner in London. Which running shoes should I buy for outdoor jogging here? In just 3 seconds, ChatGPT transforms her complaint into 3 queries with the fanouts. It finds 23 websites, looks at those websites, and the response appears. Getting started as a runner in London is an exciting goal. To establish a consistent routine from scratch, you should look at Puma. Okay, great. So Sarah then goes and Googles Puma Deviate Nitro 4 reviews. Since agentic shopping is not rolled out in the UK, this is what's happening right now. She's going to go look at a Reddit thread for some perspectives on whether these shoes are actually good to run in London. She's going to go to the website at 11:45. By 11:46, the shoes are going to be in her cart. And by 2:30, she'll get an email alert that her shoes are on the way. Sarah just spent $220. While I've been talking about Sarah, 500,000 similar commercial queries have been asked in ChatGPT, and almost $600,000 of influenced revenue have flown through the model. The new reality is that the funnel for purchase hasn't just compressed. It's become invisible. What used to take 2 to 4 weeks now takes 2 to 4 hours. Okay, we've talked a lot about what actually populating a recommendation looks like and what happens after the recommendation comes, what people do. But I want to take a step back and talk more about what's actually happening at a macro view. I want to talk about the commerce revolution that's going on right now. This right here is the timeline of agentic commerce. So it's a really long time. It's 15 months or so. So how this all started was in November of 2024, Perplexity introduced something called Buy with Pro, where you could do one-click conversion inside AI. But the really interesting thing was they also launched this thing called the Perplexity Merchant Program, which effectively allowed you to program the shopping brain of Perplexity by feeding your inventory directly into the model. By April 2025, ChatGPT followed suit and launched shopping. So 800 million weekly active users could now shop in the platform. Obviously, they'd have to click out of the platform. That's changing as well right now. The interesting thing is that ChatGPT isn't just like a search engine in that sense. It's trying to become your taste. It's trying to understand your taste and become your personal buyer. There's this quote from Adam Fry, who's the search product lead of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is trying to understand how people are reviewing products, what the pros and cons are. If you say you prefer only buying black clothes from a specific retailer, ChatGPT will store that information. Okay, September 2025, ACP launches. AI is able to complete purchases without human confirmation. And this is sort of when things sort of started to shift from, okay, we can populate a recommendation in a model to we can actually buy through the model. So now ChatGPT users can buy from, in the US, 1 million Etsy sellers, 1 million Shopify merchants in the coming months, and some major retailers, and soon other things as well. November 2025 to January 2026, agents have started to buy on your behalf. There's Google, Agentic Shopping, and UCP. Basically, there are these mandates that exist in Google, and you can effectively tell it to go and say, I want a pair of running shoes. I don't want to spend more than $140. These shoes retail for $160. When the pair drops below $140, buy it and ship it to me. Now, answer engines are launching ads. Actually, the OpenAI beta just launched on Monday. What this means is that zero-click discovery is going to continue to increase. Traditional search clicks are going to continue to decrease. And brand mentions in AI results are going to matter more than clicks. So I've walked you through this timeline, this very long timeline, but we started in November of 2024 where this was just experiments. And now, by February of 2026, this is infrastructure. You can only imagine what's going to happen in the next couple of years. If right now AI agents are, managing subscription services, by next year they'll be negotiating with other AI models. By 2028, companies are going to be selling to agentic customers. And by 2030, AI agents are going to control 30% of all consumer spending. So as I stand here today, these are the numbers that I want you to remember about the agentic commerce timeline that we talked about. $104 billion is the annual AI influence purchase volume today. 15 months is the time from experiment to infrastructure. And 46% of consumers say they trust AI to provide more honest recommendation than their friends. The age of human commerce is ending, and the age of machine commerce has begun. Okay. So this is what you all probably want to know, is what does taking action actually look like? We ran an experiment with a company called Ramp, a large fintech in the US. Ramp has a large library of content, $2.4 billion in funding. They show up pretty well across most of their offerings, except one, accounts payable. When they signed up with us, they had 3.2% AI visibility in their accounts payable product, and they were 19th in their category. They were basically invisible to the model, but not to Google. So what do they do? So what we looked at, the types of content that was actually getting cited in this category. We saw that traditional content had a 2% citation rate. AI content had a 6% citation rate, but software comparisons had a 30% of the citations. So what we did was we helped them publish 2 pages, just 2 optimized software comparison pages. And those pages started appearing in ChatGPT responses super quickly. They had 47 citations by week 2. And over the course of a couple weeks, AI visibility grew from 3.2% to 22.2%. They passed 11 competitors, and they had over 300 citations in the month, which was more than all of the previous content for that category combined. 2 strategic pages, not a bunch of AI slop, not a bunch of SEO pages, just 2 pages that were optimized for AI, that had data-dense comparisons, and they boosted their visibility 7x. And the companies that ran past weren't startups either. They were large enterprises. One of their competitors had a 50 million marketing budget. Another competitor had 10,000 pages that were indexed. One of them was #1 in Google. The old game was creating unguided content to rank in Google so that you would get clicks. Now you're creating optimized, citable content so that you can influence AI and capture decisions. So what can brands do to stay relevant? What are the actionable strategies that you can employ to increase your citation rate, to increase your visibility? The first thing I think that's important to talk about is, okay, we have all these SEO strategies already. How much weight do they actually play, and what are the new things that we have to do? So we actually ran a test to understand how much these SEO strategies actually impacted your citability and visibility. We analyzed about 1,300 pages. Basically, SEO metrics do matter. They are the foundation, but they only explain around 4 to 7% of citations. And doubling those metrics yields only a 25 to 40% increase. The other 93 to 96% is what SEO doesn't explain. And so if you look at this residual plot here, you can see that in these SEO metrics, we have referring domains, backlinks, authority score. We're systematically over the sort of baseline. And so there are a bunch of other factors at play here. We believe those to be content, expertise, and freshness. Traditional SEO metrics are essential, but they will not drive your AI visibility gains alone. So the things that actually will help you are, answer engines are only seeing a couple pieces of crucial information when they're deciding if you're worth the citation. First thing is the URL. The URL markets the page to the AI model. And we saw, as I mentioned earlier, that natural language URLs got 11.4% more citations than poorly formatted URLs. You want your URL to say what your page is about. Titles. Titles are super important. They add tremendous contextual signal. This is a SHAP analysis here, and you can see the positive correlation between the sort of semantic similarity between the title and the prompt that you were showing up for and the number of citations you got. Spoil your content in your meta description. Just say what your article is about in a very summarized, condensed form. JavaScript. For the most part, JavaScript is something that you want to avoid in terms of putting your content in the JS blocks. We actually have seen recently that in Gemini and Copilot, to a degree, pages that have client-side rendering actually can show up. But because ChatGPT doesn't allow for that right now, my recommendation would be to avoid JavaScript on your content pages. Obviously, you need JavaScript for a bunch of your website functions, but in terms of actually putting your content itself in the block, you want to avoid that. Recency. Answer engines have a huge recency bias. When an answer engine actually does the query fan out, when ChatGPT fans out your query to a bunch of different searches, oftentimes it'll actually append the year to that query. We see ChatGPT doing this quite a lot. We see Claude doing it all the time. So you want to append the year to your article. We ran a study on this. We saw that 50% of top cited content was actually less than 13 weeks old. That doesn't mean you should just be changing the date on your pages. You should be updating it. You should be updating it constantly with new information. The content that wins in AEO is content that takes a position and answers directly. We see that blogs and listicles make up around 61% of cited sources across both owned and earned. We see social is super important as well. Reddit is the #1 most cited source. YouTube is second. Wikipedia is up there as well, #1 for ChatGPT. And so you definitely want to build content that actually is showing up. You can almost reverse optimize your pages for the prompts that you want to show up for. I want to talk about social for a little bit. Reddit. I can't overstate the importance of Reddit in this new era. It's the most cited source in AI search by far if you aggregate the models together. It's really highly cited in ChatGPT, Google AI Mode, AI Overviews, all of the main models that people are turning to. Your brand's visibility is impacted by what people are actually saying about you in some random Reddit thread. It doesn't have to have a lot of likes, a lot of karma. We actually ran a study with Reddit, And we saw that those things weren't as important as the content of the thread itself and what people were actually saying. YouTube. Same thing. The actual number of likes and views on your video is less important than what the content of your YouTube video is. We ran a study and we saw that the majority of YouTube citations are from videos that have between 1,000 and 100,000 views. 25% roughly of the citations are from videos that have less than 1,000 views. Less than 1,000 views. I can go and publish something right now. So in YouTube, fresh content is going to win again. We saw that 55% of those citations go to videos published in the last year. High engagement doesn't mean more citations, as I said. You want to prioritize both instructional and comparison content, so you have how-tos, bests, question-based titles, and you want to publish a mix of independent and creator and branded content. We saw that 80% of those citations are independent and about 20% are branded. So some of the takeaways that are the most important, what's hot right now, are 1, you want to get on Reddit. 2, you want to align your content to the query fanouts themselves. If you have shopping and you have PDPs, you're an e-commerce site, you want to add FAQs to those pages. You want to make sure your semantic chunks have the answer in them. And if you have shopping, you want to think of your product as JSON. You want to expose all the factors about your product in each of these JSON files. Build your muscle now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sartaj. I'm sure you'll agree, aside from lots more current data, today is all about what are the practical things that all of you can do. And I think that was great, Sartaj, in terms of really pointing people to the things that they can do right now. I'm now going to introduce Alfred Bieler onto the stage.